Tonight's stories are about neighbors, people that we trust, but secretly, they are dangerous. If you like these videos, please make sure to like and subscribe, as I put a lot of effort into getting these out every day. My neighbor killed his newborn next to me and my friend. Someday in July 2023, my best friend called me to hang out. It was raining, and we thought going to his house was a good idea. He lives in a small apartment on the 5th floor. He has a balcony, and there's a small courtyard just underneath it. Like usual, I get out of my house and walk. We live around 5 minutes from each other. I call him on the intercom, and he opens the door. I'm going into his apartment, and we decide to eat something. After that, we played some GTA 5 and listened to some music. It started to get boring, so we went out onto his balcony to smoke. As we smoked, we saw a police officer in the courtyard I mentioned earlier. He seemed extremely stressed, traumatized, and was smoking a cigarette while his hands were shaking. He was searching for something, searching in the bushes, in the trash. It didn't stop walking around. Inside of me, I already knew something was wrong. We went back into the apartment, and everything was calm. We chilled out for a few minutes, and then we decided to go out to meet a friend of ours. So we opened the front door. We saw the apartment next to his filled with tons of cops. They all seemed stressed as well, but we didn't know anything yet. We went down the stairs to leave and were stopped by 2 officers. They started to ask questions. Did you hear people crying in the last 20 minutes? Have you noticed anything weird these last few days? I said I didn't live there, and my friend said no. As we descended the stairs, we saw a lot of police cars and ambulances everywhere. I hadn't seen anything like that in my life. We opened the door to get outside, and we decided to sit for a while. We called our friend to say we were going to be late, as we watched more and more people from the neighborhood had the same idea as we did. We talked with a nice guy to get some information, but he didn't know more than we did. The moment I knew things were bad was when I saw 2 unmarked cars arrive. They parked. A woman dressed all in white with a toolbox and a big camera around her neck got out. She looked in a hurry and got inside quickly. We immediately thought someone was dead. At first, we thought it was her husband. At this moment, everyone was inside, and we just waited. 15 minutes later, we saw the paramedics coming down through the window of the stairs. They didn't have anyone with them. It was certain that someone had died here, so we waited even more. Until we saw 2 men with a gray bag coming down the stairs. We didn't know who was in there, but at least we were 100% sure that someone died. Things were getting slow, and our friend was still waiting for us, so we left and stayed out until noon. When we got back to his house, we saw the neighbor with handcuffs and the cops around her. She looked calm and very confident. This made me think that she was innocent, even with the handcuffs. The day after that, I searched the news and found out she had mental problems and killed her 1-year-old baby just 5 meters away from us, and her husband had fled the scene and was still being sought by the police. I had chills when I read it and couldn't believe it was real. The day before she killed him, she was still with her baby in a stroller, saying hello kindly to us. I still can't believe it really happened, even if I saw the flowers next to the building doors. I have a weird neighbor in Paris. I live alone. Having an apartment in Paris is very expensive, so mine is very small, and there's just a very small window. Because it's in the 1st floor, I'm allowed to have a chair and an ashtray in front of my door in the street, so I can sit and smoke peacefully. It's been a year since I've quit smoking. My ashtray is always empty now, but 6 months ago, I started to notice that so many smoked cigarettes were in it. These were not mine. First, I thought it was just random people walking down the street and using my ashtray. But the fact is that there's just 1 cigarette brand in the ashtray, so maybe it's the same person who's constantly using it. This isn't the weirdest part at all. At this point, I wasn't even concerned. I've been to the hospital for months, leaving my apartment unused. When I came back after a while, the ashtray was cleaned and a second chair was added to the first one. It was like some people had a moment in front of my door. This second chair wasn't mine at all. Second time, I had left my apartment to go back for 1 month at my parents' house. When I came back, it was a real mess. Toilet paper everywhere on the floor. Cigarettes too. The chair wasn't here anymore. I was angry, but I was too tired to clean the mess, so I went into my apartment to sleep. I was in bed, close to 1 o'clock in the morning, and the doorbell rang. It was a guy, barely naked, just underwear, and he was very angry. He screamed at me and said to give me some of my drugs, except I don't do drugs at all. He said he can pay me a lot of money for drugs, that he saw me multiple times doing marijuana, but I don't. He was very disappointed in me. He seemed to thought I would keep the drugs for myself and that I don't share, but the truth is that I don't have any drugs. He left angrily. I've heard him screaming outside the door. He looked out of his mind. The morning after, I'd seen him near the mailbox and he was nice and normal. He didn't seem to remember anything about last night. As a girl of 20 years old, this experience was kind of scary, and I feel insecure in my own home. I'll give you some updates and I'll try to add pictures the next time it happens. Do you think my neighbor is creepy? I started this back in September last year, but never got around to sharing it. I am now due to an uncomfortable situation again. Bear with me if I ramble on. I'm writing this off inedible. I have to get some context out of the way. Let me start off by saying that I live in an apartment complex by a golf course and country club on the edge of the town. Since not many people live in this area, it can get pretty quiet at night. The complex is built partially into a small hill, the end of a road, with my apartment being on the back corner of the building on the ground floor. So the bottom of the windows in the living room and both bedrooms start literally a few inches above the ground outside. There is also a trail behind my apartment building that goes through a small wooded patch. I don't have much of a view since my living room windows face a good 15 to 20 foot patch of grass before a tree line separating it from a few houses on the next street over. This story has been ongoing the last couple of months. Not entirely sure if this is just paranoia or coincidental. Last summer, a family moved into a house on the next street over a couple of houses down from my apartment. I've only seen one middle-aged man and a dog so far. I was taking my Shih Tzu Harley outside one day while he was out in his backyard, just standing with his arms crossed, swaying side to side, like an NPC character in a 2000s video game, waiting to be interacted with. The dumpster shed area is in view of his backyard. We made eye contact, so I awkwardly waved and then just looked at my phone while Harley did her business. But I could tell from my peripheral vision that he didn't look away from us. We have the same breed of dog, so I just assumed he was probably thinking of letting them meet sometime, but I wondered why he didn't have his dog outside with him. I just went back inside quickly after Harley was done. My younger brother lives in the same complex as I do, but on the second floor. He told me that every now and then he'd see that man take his dog out to his backyard, but cross the tree line into the complex's yard. He would circle the building slowly, a little too close to the building, before going back into his house. In September last year, my boyfriend at the time and I split up. The night I told him to leave, I went to a friend's house to vent. I didn't want to leave Harley home alone too long, so after about an hour or so, I knocked out on the couch while I had a black screen rain sound video on YouTube on. I woke up around 2 a.m. to Harley going crazy, barking and growling. The other couch is right under the main window in my living room. Harley had climbed up the couch and was barking at the window between the curtains. I get up to get her down and be quiet when my stomach dropped when I realized something. The curtains are on the thinner side, and I can normally faintly see the streetlights from the next street over through the curtains. I started getting a little nervous, realizing that there was a black mass blocking some of the lights above where Harley was standing. I grabbed the remote to shut the TV off while I was getting closer to the window. The TV turns off in the style of retro TVs where the picture closes in on itself. When I turned it off, the flash animation on the TV illuminated the room briefly. It was enough that I was able to make out the form of someone dressed in dark or black clothing, and they were crouched down looking into my window. In the flash, they probably saw me too because they ran away quickly. I picked up Harley and ran to the kitchen to grab a knife and went to my room, locking the door. I texted my ex asking him if he was outside of the window just then. He replied back no and asked what was happening. I didn't believe him because he's never awake that late. I told him I was about to call the police to just tell me the truth. He told me that I should call them either way and sent me his live location showing that he was at his friend's house over an hour away. I called the police and let them know I'd seen someone outside of my window. They came and looked around, finding nothing obviously. An officer told me they'd keep someone in the area, so to just call back if anything else happened. For the next couple of weeks, around the same time, 2 to 3 a.m. each night, Harley would freak at the window. By the time I'd get to her, I couldn't see anyone outside. Fast forward now to May 2024. This last week, I went through my storage closet and found some of my ex's things. I was out with some friends tonight when he came to pick them up. He ended up texting me to come home so we could talk about something important. I get home and I notice that he has a puzzled look on his face. I asked what couldn't have just been a text, and he told me that while he was loading his stuff in his truck, he took Harley out quick. He was approached by an older lady that lives on the second floor. The dumpster is at the end of the parking lot. If you turn right, you'll face the side of the building in the general area outside my living room window. There's a few big trees keeping the area back there pretty dark even during the summer. It's deeply shaded. She said that as she was taking her trash out, she heard a twig snap and looked the direction it came from. She said she saw a man outside my window, not just walking around. He was up close, peering into my living room. One hand on the window, trying to block the light so he could see, and his phone in his other hand, pointing inside the apartment. She yelled out asking him what the fuck he was doing, but he just acted like he didn't hear her and walked away slowly in the opposite direction. She said it would be one thing if he was just looking through the yard and glanced over at my window, but he was full on pressing his face against the glass, looking in. My blood ran cold and I got goosebumps. I have since bought a Ring camera, which is something I should have done a long time ago. We'll update if anything else happens. If you want to watch another scary horror video, click the video on screen now. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.